who am I ever to doubt a company as powerful, a brand as powerful, I should say, as Coca-Cola? But when I see an 11% price increase on average, I think how long can they get away with that type of momentum?
Sure. Thanks for having me. And I think that's the question everyone's asking. What we saw this quarter was really more of the same of what we've seen from Coca-Cola over the last year or two, and that's double-digit price slash mix increases, very little impact on volume despite the price increases, and another quarter in which the results came in ahead of consensus, driven by a stronger top line. And so, actually, the last quarter that Coca-Cola missed was 6 years ago. So they have a very strong earnings track record, and this was another solid release. The one thing, they maintained their prior 2023 earnings guidance, but we think that's just them being conservative, and that there's some room for them to raise that guidance later on this year.
I am curious, too. I mean, when we talk about their pricing power, I thought it was interesting, some of the commentary that we heard out of the CFO today, really talking about those inflationary pressures on itself, meaning the idea that its commodity costs are higher, whether it's for sweeteners, whether it's for steel and aluminum for the cans, or even lumber for the pallets and things like that. He cited a whole host of things that he doesn't see abating, at least not in the short term.
That's exactly right. And they've really leveraged their brand strength. I mean, consumers have not shown a willingness to trade down, for example, to a private label cola in the face of these higher prices. And Coca-Cola understands that. And so that gives them a lot of pricing power. It's a similar story that we've seen with PepsiCo, actually, and many other companies with stronger global brand value across the consumer staples sector. And so, and Coca-Cola is very broadly diversified internationally. In fact, last year, 68% of their sales were outside of the U.S. And so they're a very international company. That's another thing that helped the company in the first quarter was currency was less of a headwind.
Yeah.
The U.S. dollar has declined pretty significantly over the last 6 months. And so currency was less of a headwind than it has been in the recent quarters.
What was the outlook that they gave, though? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion here about the direction of the dollar, and for companies like you just illustrated, like Coca-Cola, which is so dispersed around the world, that becomes even more of a factor in how you sort of set guidance.
Absolutely. And they don't necessarily, I think they just try to make sure that analysts like myself and investors understand what kind of leverage, like what kind of earnings impact they have to fluctuations in the value of the dollar versus a basket of currencies in their portfolio. So, but no question, the decline in the dollar over the last 6 months or so really helped them on the bottom line and during this quarter.